Did you know that 7 miles off England's coast there is a micro-country named Sealand? While officially it is unrecognized by other nations, it is still a separate area that was situated in international waters until falling into British territory in 1987, when the UK extended its territorial waters. You could even become a lord or lady for £30, or as Ed Sheeran did, became a baron or baroness for £60, as well as buying your own piece of territory on the country for just £20. Sealand is a man-made structure based on a sunken ship, but what is the whole story behind this unique country? Originally, it was a sea fort called Ruff's Tower, set up by Britain in the Second World War in order to watch German activity in the waters surrounding Britain. It had everything, up to 300 people working, radar equipment, guns and cannons. Eventually, it was abandoned in 1956, leaving it up for grabs. It was pretty much left alone until 1967, when a group of pirate radio broadcasters started using Sealand, or Ruff's Tower, as a place to land their helicopters. However, in September of that year, a gentleman named Roy Bates managed to physically move the illegal residents of Sealand out and move himself in, as a competing pirate broadcaster for the radio. This is because in mainland UK it was not permitted to broadcast many things on the radio, particularly for entertainment, and so by claiming Sealand as a micronation independent from the UK, Bates hoped to be able to broadcast anything, although in the end he never actually ended up doing any broadcasting as intended, perhaps as it became illegal to pirate broadcast even outside Britain's territorial waters. The first big event to show Sealand's independence was in 1968, when some workmen entered Sealand to work on a buoy nearby. Roy's son Michael tried to scare them away by shooting some warning shots. Being British, he was called to court in England on the account of firearms charges. However, the court ruled that this structure, Sealand, was in fact outside of the legal territorial control of the UK, due to the fact that it was beyond the limit of the country's waters, which was 3 nautical miles at the time. So the case was closed, and Roy and Michael Bates could carry on. Roy was actually working with someone named Alexander Achenbach, who had a Sealand passport and referred to himself as the Prime Minister of Sealand. However, Roy and Alexander ended up disagreeing about some plans to turn the whole of Sealand into a hotel or casino, along with some German and Dutch businessmen. Then in August of 1978, Alexander hired some German and Dutch mercenaries to make an attack on Sealand, while Roy and his wife were in Austria following an invitation from Alexander himself to talk about the sale of Sealand. They infiltrated the place with boats, helicopters and watercrafts and took his son Michael hostage. This was actually unsuccessful for them, as Michael, being more familiar with the platform, was able to take back control of Sealand using weapons that were stashed on the platform. In fact, Michael then captured Alexander and the mercenaries. Alexander was then charged with treason against Sealand due to holding a passport and being a close part of the nation that was even held ransom for the equivalent of £23,000. Another significant recognition of Sealand's presence and independence was how Germany then sent a diplomat from the German embassy in London to try and negotiate a release for Alexander. Though he never got the money he demanded, Roy eventually released him after several weeks of negotiating, claiming that just the fact that the German embassy had sent a diplomat over there gave Sealand a solid recognition internationally, and the Sealand government claimed that it had therefore been de facto recognized by Germany. But what is Sealand like now? Well, Michael Bates is still active, and although he lives in Essex, he still goes to Sealand and is known as the Prince of Sealand. Michael Bates said himself on Reddit that they have over 50 citizens, but the population constantly fluctuates. There are plenty of things to purchase from Sealand's website, like official titles, like Ed Sheeran, territory, shirts, mugs, flags and more. Sadly, if you wish to visit Sealand, this may be unlikely if you're not already a resident, as entry into the place has been heavily restricted for more than 20 years. Although it's not impossible to try to request a visit, especially if it involves important business. Will Sealand ever be recognized as an independent nation? Probably not. First of all, it fell into British territorial waters after the UK extended its territorial waters. In addition, Sealand itself is a man-made structure in the middle of the sea. Generally, a nation can only be considered one if it has its own natural land from the earth. Otherwise, it cannot even be considered an island since it is a natural land. However, past events such as dismissed court cases from being outside UK water and Germany negotiating with Sealand do show how it has been considered historically, and it is unlikely the UK will try to take over Sealand as it is generally harmless and isn't significant enough to be worth overthrowing. Have any micronations successfully become a recognized independent country? You could say that Liechtenstein, San Marino, Andorra, and Monaco have achieved this, as they are independent states and small. However, some people think that they're different to micronations like Sealand due to their more legitimate history. Of course, there are many micronations like Sealand that are trying to become internationally recognized, such as the Republic of Molossia in the middle of Nevada, and the Principality of Seborga, which claims a 14 square kilometer area within Italy near the French border. However, very few micronations succeed in becoming fully independent and recognized.